So Eva, thank you so much for coming to Chicago to have a little intimate chat with myself and about 12 to 1,300 of my closest friends here this afternoon.
Okay, you had to tell me the number. I'm pleased to be here.
I have notes.
I don't.
So I would love it if you would start off by just telling us just a little bit about yourself.
Okay, no problem. Well, you know my name is Eva. It's Eva Jean Joseph, and I dare anyone to call me Eva Jean. I was born in 1947. That makes me 72 years old. I'm married. This year will be 49 years. And and we have one daughter who's making her way in Los Angeles as a comedian and a producer.
I can see where she gets that from. So, Eva, you have breast cancer.
I do. I have had breast cancer since 2001. I was diagnosed the first time. I had a mastectomy, and I went through chemotherapy, and it was not a fun time. It was scary. It was very scary when I got the diagnosis because I did not know what to expect. I worked with some really good doctors and really good nurses, and we were able, after the surgery and the chemotherapy, I was declared free, cancer-free. And I'm really pleased for that experience because it makes what happened later in my life, made it possible for me to deal with all of the situations that were coming up. What I did not like about this first treatment was, one, I lost my hair. Two, I blew up like a balloon from the chemotherapy. I had a round moon face, they call it, and it was not fun being unattractive and feeling people were staring at you, and you couldn't say, I'm like this because I am taking chemotherapy.
So we talked about this earlier. So this was back in 2002 when you were first treated for breast cancer?
2001.
Right? 2001. Mm-hmm. What happened after that?
Well, after that, I had retired from my job as a manager and vice president of the company I work for. And I started up, when I was on chemo, I started looking at landscape designs because I hated my garden. And I wanted something that was going to be beautiful and new and growing. And so I designed my own garden. I did all of the work. And this is right after the first chemotherapy treatments. I did all of the work, and people would visit our house and see my garden and say, oh, I love this. Will you do this for me? And I said, sure, I love doing it. Then they said, well, how much do you charge? I had no clue. So I had to do some research on that, and then I started my own company from that.
So life was very exciting, it sounds like.
Yeah,
After
it was.
Cancer-free.
Yes.
A new life.
Yes.
New commitments, new initiatives.
Yes.
And then stage 4 breast cancer showed up. What was going on then?
I didn't know, because this was not like the first cancer. The first cancer was identified by a mammogram. And any woman who does not get a mammogram is nuts. Because the week before I was diagnosed with that cancer, my doctor had examined me for my physical, and of course, she examined my breasts. And we were both congratulating ourselves on how healthy I was. And then I had the mammogram like 2 weeks later, and it showed up on the mammogram, and then you know the rest of that story. With the stage 4, I couldn't breathe. I had a real difficult time breathing. So I would get tired. I couldn't walk for very long stretches. And so I went to the doctor, and at first I went to urgent care because my doctor was out of town. Anyway, my doctor thought I had emphysema. And so when my personal physician came back to town, I went to see her, and she thought I had heart problems. So she sent me to a cardiologist, and the cardiologist suggested I have an x-ray. And it was with the x-ray that they found spots on my lung and lots of fluid. I had the fluid removed on an outpatient basis. The first time there was 1.5 liters of fluid removed from my lungs. Then I had to have surgery because they wanted to get as much of the cancer out as possible. And I want to make sure everyone understands that this was breast cancer. These were all breast cancer cells that had settled in my lungs and eventually into my sternum. So we were in a totally different ball game. When my oncologist told me that I had stage 4 cancer, I really believed that this was a death sentence. I had no idea how much longer I had to live. I was terrified. And then she, working with another oncologist, Dr. Conlon, said, look, there's a trial. And if you're interested, you could become part of that trial. And the trial was for triple-negative
breast cancer.
Triple-negative breast cancer, very good.
Thank you.
It was for the triple-negative breast cancer, and I was just devastated. But, as I said, the trial had started, but not too far that I couldn't become a part of it. And that was in 2012.
You were actually one of the first subjects enrolled, one of the first people enrolled on the Impassion 130 clinical trial.
Oh, okay. Okay, I didn't realize that. And at any rate, the stage 4, after the surgery, I had chemotherapy, and Abraxane was used along with the immunotherapy treatment. I want to say a little bit about the environment that you find yourself in when you're going to be treated. Because when you go, you eventually become part of a family of people. there are people being treated in the same room with you for all types of cancer that made me feel good about having stage 4. That's how bad some of it was. And when you would see young people come in their 30s, in their 20s with cancer, it was heartbreaking. But the staff was absolutely and remain absolutely wonderful. I have gotten to know a lot of them, and when they move, I cry because I didn't want them to go. But they're, doing what they have to for their career.
So 4 years ago, you started receiving the combination of Abraxane chemotherapy and the immunotherapeutic Tecentriq on the Impassion 130 study. In the short term, can you share with us what happened? And then, can you tell me what's happened in the ensuing 4 years?
Okay. What happened initially, I had lost weight. I lost a tremendous amount of weight, which is ironic considering the amount of time I spent in my life trying to lose weight. So I lost weight. I was tired all the time. I would fall, literally fall, just fall backwards because I just lost my balance. And I'm sorry, I forgot the part of your question.
4 years. Let me ask. Let me ask this a different way. You described that 4 years ago, somebody, in using your terms, gave you a death sentence. What is your outlook on life now?
I am so grateful for my life. I am grateful for every person who has entered my life, and because they have made it better. I have learned to learn from other people. And the biggest mistake I'd always made all my life, my husband will tell you this, is that I never wanted to accept help. I felt it was a weakness. Now I don't feel that way. I want to give help, and I want to receive help.
Do you have plans for the future?
Our plans are to take little trips. Like, we live...
Like Chicago.
No, that wasn't my idea. No, we want to take little trips, and we do. We live in Oregon. We live close to wine country, and just about every other weekend you can find us with a picnic going off to one of the wineries. And the other thing that I do is talk to some of the younger people. Excuse me. To some of the younger people. For example, there's this young woman who's a volunteer. She's been a volunteer for 6 years, and she works full-time. And she wanted to start a business of preparing and giving food and selling food to the patients, because when you're hooked up to the machines, you literally are just sitting all day so she wanted to do that, and I encouraged her, and I helped her with developing a business plan, and she wrote it up and sent it to the trustees at the hospital, and they gave her a small grant to start with. So I'm really pleased about that.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. I have one last question for you. Is there a message or something you would like to share with all these people here from Roche today?
I want to say thank you. You have made it possible for me and others to live a longer life. It turns out that when I got my death sentence, actually, I had about 18 months to live. And I have been on treatment now for almost 4 years. That would not have been possible without you. So thank you very much. Oh my goodness, these are gorgeous. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Eva. By the way, my oldest son is a student in Portland. And,
Is that right?
Yeah, so I might have to send him along on one of your picnics. But no, thank you so much. Thanks, Steve. And Eva, thank you so much first off, for being willing to be a part of our clinical trial. You know, without brave volunteers like you, we wouldn't have an opportunity to bring these sort of life-saving therapies to thousands of other patients. And so thanks for being a pioneer.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
And then thank you for being here. And because, I mean, I love Chicago, but it's not like the wineries in Portland, in Oregon. So thanks for making the trip out here. And
sure.
It was really a treasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
God bless you. Thank you.